Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Community Service and Economic Development Committee meeting on this day, Tuesday, November 21st, 2023 at 2 p.m. in Council Chambers. I will now call this meeting to order. With every meeting, we start off with a land acknowledgement. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Could I have Clerk Errett do the roll call, please?
Chair Andrew Dick.
Present.
Chair Legree.
Present.
Chair Reeve, sorry, not Chair, Reeve-Emo.
Present, yes.
Okay, Chair Andrew Dick, we do have quorum, and also to note for the record, we also have Councillor McDonald here.
Thank you for that. Are there any declaration of interest in today's meeting? Hearing none, we will move on to presentations and delegations. Our first presentation is presented by Clerk Errett. It is the Community Services and Economic Development Standing Committee Terms of Reference. Clerk Errett, you have the floor.
All right, so I'm just going to make this really quick because I do know we have some other presentations to get to today. Just kind of a little bit of reasoning and background for why we are here and what we're here to accomplish. So for the terms of reference, the committee's terms of reference was approved by Council on October the 24th. The following members are part of this committee, which is Councillor Andrew Dick, who's the chair, Reeve-Emo, and Councillor Legree. The recording secretary is myself, Carolyn Errett, and the main staff lead, which is the Director of Library and Community Services, which is Kelly Thompson. The meeting schedule, the Community Services and Economic Development Committee will meet at 2 p.m. on the third Tuesday of every month, with the exception of July. The meeting will be held here in the Council Chambers or the Council Boardroom. It will be broadcasted on the town's YouTube channel, and all meetings are open to the public for public viewing, as well as any member who wishes to address the community directly is asked to contact myself to request a delegation, ideally about a week and a half before the scheduled meeting. The mandate of the committee, the Community Services and Economic Development Standing Committee provides guidance and direction that encourages resident involvement in the culture and life of their community. The committee is responsible for issues relating to arts, heritage and culture, community programming, economic development, and client service delivery. So as I go through kind of the responsibilities of the committee, I'm going to do this very briefly, not in a lot of detail. All this information is available on our agenda, which is on our website, which gives a fulsome, detailed description, but I'm just going to highlight a few minor things. So the committee itself is responsible directly to Council for those items and emanating from all applicable services within the Library and Community Services Department. They make recommendations to Council related to arts, heritage, culture, active living, as well as client services delivery and economic development. They receive information reports with key performance indicators and other data pertaining to the Library Committee and Library Committee and Service Department. So one other thing for the general responsibilities, they address all matters related to and arising from local boards and advisory committees and working groups. So you can see the list here of a few of them: Downtown Business Improvement Association, Renfrew and Area Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development Advisory Committee, Renfrew and Area Health Village, Renfrew and Area Seniors Home Support, and Renfrew Golden Age, the Renfrew and District Historical and Museum Society, Heritage Renfrew, the NHA and the NHL Museum, Birthplace Museum, Friends of the CN Caboose, and Renfrew Art Guild. Okay, and then going into some of the specific responsibilities, again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but just kind of the areas. So community services and culture, community initiatives, economic development, and customer service. Does anybody have any questions or would like me to go into a bit more detail on anything?
Are there any questions from the floor? Reeve-Emo, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just to be clear, under the
It's general responsibilities. Third button says make recommendations to council related to arts, heritage, culture, active living, as well as client service delivery and economic development. So if we have a company or someone coming to the area that wants to talk to council about establishing a business or manufacturing, it comes here through this through Kelly and Ms. Thompson and her department?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
So whether they want to do a delegation, they can directly reach out and contact me or the staff member.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, we're going to move on to presentations and delegations and petitions. Oh, we're already on there, so we're just moving on to C2 now. Delegation from Mr. Mike Koulis and Ms. Christina Ouellette. If you two would like to come up to the front here, you're more than welcome to grab a chair. And we'll just make sure that your button is green. And if you can state your full names and your residence, you don't have to give your address, but what town you live in, and you can start anytime you're ready.
Go ahead.
Mike Koulis. I live in Renfrew.
And I'm Christina Ouellette, and I live in the greater town of Renfrew.
Okay. We've come before this committee today to request support from the town of Renfrew to reinstate the Renfrew Bluegrass Festival. A little history: the Bluegrass Festival was held in the area for almost 25 years, hosted in the township of Horton. And in 2018, following their retirement from that organization, we assumed responsibility as a council at that time and spent a sizable amount of money on lands that belonged to the town at Mattaway Park that were not utilized at the time to create a designated area called the Bluegrass Circle. There was tens of thousands of dollars spent creating a big circle road in there for emergency vehicles and large RVs to be able to enter that field, if you will. We did that in 2018, early in the year, and then had our first festival, which was a fairly good success for the first time within the town's limits. The second year we had it in 19, we corrected some of the negativities that we got back through feedback on our surveys, and made it even more successful in 19. We all know what happened in 20 and 21, and then in 22 we regrouped and held it again last year, and made a wee bit of money, less than $1,000, but didn't lose any money. We brought a lot of dollars to the community in support of local business. I know that this committee is called the Economic Development and Community Services, which sort of blends well with what we're asking for here. We're asking for basically the support and the endorsement of the town of Renfrew. That's what we're asking for. If we wanted to put if we were going to put a dollar value on what we're asking for, it would maximize at $45,000, but not get near that, and not require any money at all until probably 3 months before the actual event, so March or April of 24, when we would need a bit of money to produce papers, posters, booklets, tickets, that sort of thing, and promotional items. There's no upfront funds needed. It has been suggested that maybe a memorandum of understanding would work better in this situation. that would be something that, that this committee and town council could decide on what works best. All monies would, of course, be handled through the town of Renfrew, so the Treasury would know what is coming and going at all times, and we would be asked to be kept abreast of that, of course. Tickets would be sold online, as they were the last three festivals here in town, through the service. Sorry, the name escapes me right now. There's numerous reasons we need the support, and the very main reason is there is a lot of additional support dollars available out there from suppliers to the corporation. So basically what I'm saying is, if we can get the endorsement of the town of Renfrew, we can then approach companies like, and not limited to, the Kavanaughs, the JP2Gs, the BEIs and so on of the community that realize a lot of revenue from the town of Renfrew. They are always looking for avenues to spend tax-deductible dollars, and this is a good way for them to promote the local economy. But we can't go to them without the endorsement of the town. That's basically our stand.
And as a business owner here in Renfrew and a very past active member in the BIA, not only myself, but the outlying businesses do well with having a festival like this in town. I do feel that it's just not for us, it's also for the stakeholders in Renfrew. Every taxpayer here in Renfrew. It's a great community festival. I know a lot of people might not just be bluegrass lovers, but there's also, you think about Blues Fest, it's not necessarily that they're going to be, we could diversify maybe a little bit, maybe have a little folk people in there as well. You bring a different type of people to the town of Renfrew. Also, it's great for us as well, because they get to see how wonderful our community is. People that would come from everywhere, they might just maybe even retire here in Renfrew, because a lot of people like to be moving and stuff like that. So it's a great, even being in business for a long time, like we even felt that our stores were a little bit more busier, especially if it was a rainy day. They came into our stores, they came to our laundromats, they came to the grocery stores, just, you know, and saw how wonderful our town is. And I really, anyway.
I think that's probably our presentation.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you so much for that. I am going to open up the floor for questions. I'm allowed to do that, correct? If there's any clarifying questions, we'll stick to the clarifying questions. I see Councillor McDonald, you have your hand up, so if you'd like to take the floor, you can go ahead.
Yeah, and I just got a statement to make too. I don't like how the transition took place a year or two ago, and I totally support the Bluegrass project, getting it up and running. My only issue is with the financial side of the project, and I'm wondering, have you tried to access any grants, or I can put that out to the floor here, and Kelly, I think you specialize in it. Is there any grants, or no, sorry, I'll take that back. Have you tried to access any grants or anything along those lines with regard to that? And that's my first question. Go ahead.
Yeah, there are grants available through cultural affairs and so on through the province and the federal government, and we have in the past accessed that money. Your economic development officer, I believe, although I can't keep track of the employment changes in this organization, but Victoria Charbonneau is very, very aware of how that works, and she has applied in the years past and has record of that and has accessed that money. She also has a lot of data from the previous festival. She has attendance numbers, she has surveys, she has all that in documentations, not to mention the basement has probably, in this town hall, probably has, I would say, or $5,000 worth of swag down there with the Bluegrass logo on it, from coats to hoodies to coolers to you name it.
Councillor McDonald, do you have any follow-up clarify questions?
Yeah, and are you just representing yourself, or is there a registered group? Yeah, that's where I'm going with next.
Yep,
Thank you.
there's a group of us, yeah.
Yeah.
It's expanding every day. Obviously, nobody wants to get in bed with us, per se, until we get a decision. But we have lots of commitments and lots of people that are for this. I know the town has received a survey back a year ago with over 1,150 signatures on it, most of them from out of the area. These are people that come to this festival.
And come to our town.
And come to our town, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that everything, Councillor McDonald? Reeve Emo, you have the floor.
Thank you. So your group, does it have a budget outlined in terms of go forward? Because I remember, I think the budget for music was about 35,000 or 40,000, was it roughly?
Yeah, you're very close there.
Okay.
We spent in 19 and in 22, we spent just under $35,000 Canadian on all of our entertainment. The plan this year, the budget this year is to spend a wee bit more than that, but under 40, and mainly because of the exchange in the dollar, because let's face it, we're not going to get the crowds unless we bring in at least 2 headliners from the U.S., and that's what people want to hear. Those are the entertainers they can't hear in Canada. And generally, I'd be on this year after year after year. I'd be on this in August and have that booked. But here we are now at the end of November, and I still don't have a decision from this town. So when I do get a decision, yes or no, and if it's yes, then I have to get on the phone right away and try and secure something that will fit under that budget line, and hopefully cover it with support from, as I said earlier, from companies.
Follow-up?
Thank you. So essentially the gate and sponsorship is going to drive this? Okay.
Is that everything, Reeve Emo? Yep. Perfect. Councillor McDonald, do you have a follow-up question?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, follow-up. With regard to the 45,000, are you looking for a grant, a loan? Is it to front the initial costs and pay back later? You mentioned that it made money, so you're looking for a one-time infusion of money. Okay, go ahead and explain. Thank you.
No, what I'm looking for is just the guarantee. We don't want any money up front, and we probably don't want any more than, like I said earlier, $5,000 to $8,000 maximum in the spring of the year to cover initial setup costs. The $45,000 is just basically, how should I say this, like a safety blanket, a parachute, in case something goes sideways, but I don't anticipate it, and it's not like we're inventing the wheel here. It's a matter of taking the paperwork that we already have on file and checking the boxes and doing it again and doing it right. There's always little refinements need to be done each year, but this is something that, and this handout I'll give you later is sort of explains that. We're looking for a commitment this year, but we're really looking for a commitment ongoing. We'd like to see this council get behind us for the next 3 summers that you people are in power here, to get this thing up and running. Our initial plan, and Reeve Emo was involved with this back in 2018, was to give this a 5-year run. And after 5 years of running and successfully running, we would gently turn it over to volunteer groups within the community. And, for example, the Legion, the Wing, all these different groups that are in town, the Rotary clubs and so on, that they could take different aspects of the whole organization and run it as a profit center and as a way of developing a charity for the places like the hospice and the senior support and that sort of thing. But also, more importantly, the dollars that come in over that 5 to 7 days that these people are in Renfrew living here. They spend a lot of money. They spend a lot of money.
Thank you, Mr. Coolis, for that presentation. Very quickly, go ahead, Councillor Legre.
Through you, Chair, Andrew Dick. I think it's a good idea. I agree we need to do stuff for the town that brings business in, like for the businesses, I mean. And you're right, it has been done before. I just have a question with the bills and stuff going through the Treasury Department. So, like everything you buy, like if it's posters and all that, it'll be paid through the town. Can you just explain that a little better for me, please?
Yeah, similarly to the way we did it in 2018, 19, and 22, all bills were paid by the town. I believe the Treasury kept a separate, obviously a separate accounting system for that back, I mean, in Treasurer O'Reilly's days and with Aaron Broom, so that on a regular basis when we meet, we could go over what has been spent, what has been received. All revenues coming in from ticket sales would obviously come into the town because they're going to come in electronically. So it makes it much easier for the town to keep track of what's going on. I mean, eventually, like I said earlier, eventually this will leave the town in the sense that it will not be in the town's treasury, if you will. It will be a separate account by the Renfrew Bluegrass group or committee or whatever. But for the startup again, because I mean, we got kicked by the pandemic, and then we got kicked this year out of the park. So we're kind of starting over again, but we're not really, because, like I said, we don't have to reinvent this thing. It's been proven. It works, and people are standing by, believe it or not, waiting on this decision. There's a lot of people watching for this decision from council.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Coolis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Legre. Yeah. Okay. I had to look at the boss to see if I was loud. Because we're 5 minutes over time now, so go ahead. Go ahead, Treasurer Broom.
I'm sorry, it'll only be quick. I just wanted to ask you, Mr. Coolis, in past years, when there was sponsorships, the town had to invoice all of the sponsors for those monies. Would that stay with the town as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the way to control it, in my opinion.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ms. Ouellette and Mr. Coolis. So I think I can do what I'm about to ask. Can we obviously need to bring this to council to have a debate. CEO Tremblay, so what would be the next, obviously, I think it's important that this comes to council, a motion's made, we debate it, and we decide, so how would we do that right now in this committee?
So through you, Mr. Chair, so Director Thompson has a report on the events policy, which is a completely different approach than what is being proposed, which is essentially the town spearheading this with a committee that would organize it separately, which is the old model. The policy that's before you at committee today is not that model. It's us providing in-kind services. So I think the committee will make a review of that report and that policy for council, and what we could do is do a supplemental report with any information that was received from the Bluegrass Committee, and then council can decide. So the policy basically speaks to approach to deal with events going forward and how we support event organizers. It's slightly different than what the group is proposing, which is fine. So basically you have a report on today's agenda where you can consider this request and provide us direction, and all that will rise to council next week.
Okay, so thank you, CEO Tremblay. I just want to make sure, because Mr. Coolis and Ms. Ouellette, they need an answer next week. I feel your urgency, and I would like to give you that answer next week at council. So Tuesday, we're going to figure out a motion to bring up to council today by the end of the meeting, and we'll bring it up. All right? Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Okay, so now we're moving on to C-3, delegation from Miss Lisa Vincent, Mr. Mel Blimke, and Ms. Wanda Bridges-Kennel from the downtown Renfrew Business Improvement Area, and they have a delegation.
Mr. Chair, I misspoke. I did review a report and a policy, but it's coming to council directly next week.
Okay.
So just wanted to be clear that that report and policy is coming to council directly next week, and at that time you can provide direction with regard to the bluegrass request and review the policy.
Okay, so I just want to be
Yep.
clear that they're going to have an answer next week, yes or no, for helping them out, and you'll help us figure that out.
Yep, so the report's
Perfect.
rising directly to council next week.
Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, sorry about that, guys and ladies. So is the green thing on?
It is now.
So just your first and your last name and what town you live in, and I think that's it.
I'm Lisa Vincent, and I live in Renfrew.
I'm Mel Blimke, and I live in Admaston.
I'm Wanda Kennel. I live in Renfrew.
All righty. So you guys have a delegation, so we're going to try and keep it to 10 minutes. So if you guys want to go ahead and do your presentation, we welcome it.
For sure. I'm here on behalf of the Downtown Renfrew BIA, and Mel and Wanda as well. And just a little, I guess, bit of brief history. I am actually back on the BIA this year after about a 5-year hiatus, but over the years I've been on the BIA board for 20 of the 25. I've owned a business downtown, and some of which I was chair, so I've been asked to represent because of my history and knowledge of what's occurred in the past. So a little history of the BIA, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with much of this, but initially Downtown Renfrew BIA was formed in 1979. It was essentially in response to the Ontario BIA Association was established for BIAs across Ontario, and it was in response to basically shopping malls that were starting to erect within communities, and in order to keep downtowns viable with their businesses and services. Basically, our BIA has been in place since 1979, so woohoo, we're almost 50 years old. So, and some of the successes we've seen over the past, pretty much from approximately about, there was a lot of successes over the years, but just kind of like a synopsis over about the last 10, 15 years. We were successful in having the parking meters removed, and this was in response to our clientele who patronize our businesses as well as the business owners themselves. We did create a BIA bylaws and handbook. We realized that we should have some form of structure and regulation, and the initial bylaws were so old that we felt it should be updated. They were never actually instituted, just it was suggested at the time by the council that we had a very informal relationship, and it was probably advisable to keep it that way at that point. So we did operate by those bylaws, but it wasn't official at the time. When the county rezoned, and that was around, I think, 2010, thereabouts, 2012, there was a rezoning of the downtown core, and we did an exercise where we actually walked our membership area at the time and identified any irregularities. Some of the businesses were going to be rezoned residential, and we identified those issues because to go from commercial to residential, obviously with a business in the premises, was going to be a bit of a problem. So we resolved those issues for the county. They implemented what we put forward. And at that point in time, then the BIA well, not the BIA boundaries, but the actual downtown commercial boundaries were extended beyond what our BIA currently encompasses. So currently we encompass, we say from max to max. It's now Circle K to vacancy, but Raglan Street, both sides, the west side of Plant Street, and the east side of Argyle, so just the one side of each street. Whereas the rezoning did encompass a larger span with that. We've also created a number of different events over the years that have proven successful and continue to this day. The Great Downtown Garage Sale, that summer night, Freaky Friday, our community celebration, the Shop, Stamp, and Win, which we run for the Christmas season, and Show the Love, which is a Valentine's Day promotion. And we expect our Shop, Stamp, and Win this year. We've got twice as many cards that have gone out. We've put them out a little earlier this year, so we expect that it could generate another $150,000 in the downtown core within that time frame. We have approached at times, and in this proposal I'll be highlighting obviously the levy and our boundaries and that kind of thing, and where we see everything going forward if possible. And in 1979, our levy was established at $60,000. And in 2012, we were successful in having it increased to $65,000 at that point. We've supported different causes throughout the years and supported charitable events, and probably the most recent big one was the I Choose RVH campaign in 2014 through 2017. So the purpose here for our presentation is that we really do have some forethought with regards to our board and making our downtown core and the board successful and supporting all of our businesses and our members. We want to enter into the new year with new policies and procedures in place. We want to partner very closely with the town in order to put into place appropriate bylaws, codes of ethics, and a structure. So we're a very formal board, as we really should be, working under the umbrella of the town and the levy we collect. Some of these changes that we are proposing is that, and this will be reflective of the review that's currently will be presented, I think, shortly. But where we see this is that the new board will have a new makeup. Initially, the original board was 5 board members, 5 directors, 3 executive, being a chair, a vice chair, and a treasurer, and 2 council members. And we would like to see that again going forward, down to a 5 board and 2 council members. And we also feel that in order to move beyond 1979, that we need to realistically look at our budget and cost of living and what we can do and accomplish and be effective. So we'd like to reflect our boundaries to reflect that of what is zoned commercial downtown, so that all the businesses will benefit from what we can offer them, as well as, and obviously with expanding to reflect that, what it does end up doing is providing us with essentially about 30% more members. So based on that alone, that would facilitate increasing the levy to a more reasonable rate for 2024. We would really like to see that our areas of responsibility are very properly defined between both what the town does and what our board would do going forward, and our areas of responsibility. That way everyone is very structured, and it's basically we're given a job description as to what we're to focus on and move forward with. And again, we want to work within a good structure, so within municipal bylaws as well as our own BIA bylaws. So at this point, in order to go forward, I don't know if I think this.
You were kind of bouncing back and forth from the slide presentation.
I'm sorry, yeah.
It's
I've
okay.
got what's in front of me.
It's okay.
I was trying to keep up.
I was trying to keep up too.
Okay. Yeah, so this is where the
what would you like
map
Carolyn,
would
Clerk
well,
Everett, to
you
bring
could
up?
probably pull up the map there if you have that accessible.
I'll just,
Yeah.
Miss
there's that one.
Vincent, Miss Vincent will just give you a notice that we're 3 minutes before the 10 minutes is up. Thank
We're
you.
almost done here.
So this one or the other one?
So that shows, the bigger one shows the actual guidelines, or the actual commercial zoning for designated downtown commercial. That's a blow up there, which indicates that it encompasses quite a bit more than what we currently show as BIA boundaries. And we have had in the past interest from a number of the businesses wanting to be able to participate in the BIA, and quite a bit of confusion in the fact that the guy across the street on Plant Street or the guy across the street on Argyle Street is a member, but they're not, and they want to participate. So we felt that by reflecting what is zoned commercial downtown through the county would be not only make common sense for the BIA, but would also be beneficial to those businesses and our current membership. And in doing that, we would propose to expand those boundaries. We know that there's steps involved with that, so it's not going to be an immediate thing, but something to pursue going into 2024. We would like to increase our current budget from $65,000 to $95,000 annually, with a cost of living calculated annually as well and administered with that. Ironically, had the cost of living calculation been applied to the $60,000 levy since 1979, we would probably be over $30,000 or $300,000 dollar levy right now. So we've been operating at much lower than that, and unfortunately it's becoming ineffective to do what we need to do with all the designations that we've had. So with that, we would see going forward, we would like the town to assume the beautification duties of the downtown, seeing as there has been so much gray area of that over the years as to who is responsible for flower beds versus hanging pots, that kind of thing. And we see going forward that we would assume all the responsibility for promoting downtown through events, through advertising, through loyalty programs, and also with our full-time administration. We want to be able to compensate Wanda at an equitable rate that is acceptable under municipal standards. So, and essentially, that's sort of the Coles Notes of everything. But
no, that was it was a good presentation. Yeah. It really was. Do we have any clarifying questions regarding this? Councillor Agree, you have the floor.
Through you, Chair Andrew Dick, I have a comment and 2 questions.
Clarifying questions?
Sure.
Thank you.
So just my comment on the debt part of it. I'm not really sure why the BIA in the first place was charged for like garbage cans and benches and stuff like that. So I don't have an issue with that. My question, one of my questions is with the review findings at the end when we went, and this might be for the CAO, I'm not sure. So if there was an $80,000 levy, it says that it's a 27% increase for businesses, and the highest property would be paying $76.53. Is that, I'm assuming that's with the boundaries the way they are now without extending them?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So basically the process to expand the boundaries, and we'll speak to this when the report comes forward, but there's a notice requirement in the Municipal Act, and there's a threshold so that if existing businesses don't want it to be expanded, which I think there's some support, but if there's disagreement with the number of folks being in, that could delay the process. So we won't be able to implement that effective for 2024. There is a process to expand the boundaries, and we have to follow the notice provisions. That's why staff are recommending a middle ground. Right now, there's a calculation, and the maximum that can be charged is $3,000. 3 businesses are only pay the maximum $3,000. That's Rexall, Sears, the old Sears building, and Metro. And what that means is that because they only pay $3,000, everybody else has to pay a little bit more. So basically the $65,000 is divided up based on assessment within the properties within the district. So if you increase, and Aaron and I were just shocked that the $60,000 was dating back to when this was created. So the tax rate has increased, but it hasn't been applied to the levy, which is applied through the tax rate, right? So one coincides with the other. So all to say, an increase in budget will require us, what we're looking for is direction to give back to the BIA as they prepare their budget for next year. And the budget that we got did not have revenues, so just had expenses, so they need to provide a full budget. And some direction from council and committee on what you'd like to see. And is it 95, is it 80, is it 65? So that's what we're looking for when we get to the report. And as part of that, we would report back through the budget process to talk about maximums and whether you're lifting the maximum for those three entities or the only three that are paying the maximum. But an increase from 65 to even 80 or 65 to 90 or 95 or more is a significant increase, understanding that COLA was never applied over the years, and that's unfortunate because it really has stymied the BIA's opportunity to do the great work they do and do more of it. So we can talk about it more in the report, but it's basically we're looking for direction for them to prep their budget for us, for our budget process. And through the budget process, you would consider their formal request, and we would give you advice on how to implement that in terms of the tax rate and the tax levies. And then we would also look at expansion, but I would say the expansion is going to have an impact on the 2025 budget because of the process to notify the affected property owners, to do the bylaw, to do that process, and we need time to be able to do that.
Perfect, thank you, and he answered my last question.
Okay.
Thanks.
I was actually going to stop you because we're bringing this conversation up later on in the, that wasn't a clarifying question. I'm just joking. Reeve Emo, you have the floor.
And as I was saying to Mr. Blumke in the elevator, congratulations on the Halloween event. It was great to see all the people downtown, and we were judging costumes, and it was pretty cool. All the kids and that also were dressed up, so it was a real success. So very quickly, the bullet number 6, storage area provided for BIA at a town location. So I have 2, Chair, through you, if that's okay. So are like 10 square feet, 20 square feet, 100 square feet? Just
So more or less just enough to store files. We have to keep our files forever on events and things like that.
okay, thank you. And then the next one through you, Chair, would be the last bullet point under BIA responsibilities promotion, where you talk about establishing and create criteria for building facades and maintenance of vacant properties, hold property owners accountable for the property maintenance and building aesthetics. So what I'm suggesting is that is it a land use planning thing or a zoning thing, where we have a theme, like, just for the sake of argument, looking like Lake Louise or Banff, not that, but is that the kind of thing you're suggesting as an overall look down within the BIA? Because, and I know that you do note that it's a partnership with council and bylaw enforcement, so I'm just curious what that statement means.
I believe that what we're trying to attempt here is that the bylaws that are in place are enforced for aesthetics, for signage, temporary or signage versus I guess ongoing signage, and there's a fascia restriction on the size and that. I think rundown businesses that have kind of fallen a bit should be, brought back up to speed, and it's just that BI doesn't have the bite to enforce that on the building owner. So it's to get the bylaws to start reacting to those shortcomings.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, I'd like to thank the representatives from the BIA for showing up today. Before you leave, I would just like to add that I feel the BIA is doing a wonderful job over the last year or two. I've sadly been unable to get to any of your amazing events, but I tell you, the pictures on social media are unbelievable to see thousands of people down on our streets, and it's like we're bringing that community back, and hopefully we can continue working together in the future, and thank you for coming. Okay, so we're now going to move on to C.4, presentation, community service monthly update, presented by Director Thompson, Manager Charbonneau, who is unavailable today, and Specialist Fraser, who's in-house. So Director Thompson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to hand over the beginning of the community service update to Ms. Fraser. Let
her take it over.
Thank you. So our community services monthly update, this is just our update from the last presentation we did last month. So between October 12th and November 14th is the dates we're looking at here. So what we've been up to, winter program guide has taken over my life. So that's the big circle there. We are working also on the Santa Claus Parade, which is in a couple weeks. We've got our Fruit Fest Family Day Winter Carnival coming up in February, which the planning has already begun there. Our staff Christmas party is this Saturday. We've got Free Year's Eve as well as our New Year's Eve dinner and dance, so 2 events happening on that date. And we did have, since last meeting, our Craft Beer and Food Truck Festival, which was really well received. You can keep going. Thank you. So we did have our 10-kilometer walk, run, cycle, which was in partnership with the Ottawa Valley Cycling and Active Transportation Alliance. We raised funds for Hospice Renfrew. It was on a very cold and wet day. We still had 37 people come out and raised over $400 for hospice, which was awesome. Again, we did our Craft Beer and Food Truck Festival. This is probably one of our most popular events that we hold throughout the year. It was a team of myself, Victoria, Rudy, and Jacob that worked to put this together. We also had awesome volunteers come out. Thank you, counselors. And community services, which was my department. What we were in charge of was the sound and lighting, performers for the stage, getting some volunteers, yard games for kids and families, as well as doing a survey afterwards that went out to volunteers, staff, anyone that was a part of the event. That's an interesting number there. So this is just our registration numbers over the past month, which was 240, not 24 over 0. And this was just for different programs that ran between October 12th and November 14th. So we had, like I said, 240 people register for some programs. This is my life right now, is this winter program guide. So as you can see on here, we've got a lot of different programs and events coming into our lives in the next 3 months. So there's over 30 programs and events over the course of December, January, and February. A lot of repeats of some popular programs that we run, such as gymnastics, parkour, kinder gym. Line dancing was really popular, so we brought that back, but we also have some new stuff, such as swing dancing lessons, some different exercise programs, cooking classes, multiple different workshops, winter activities through the Christmas break, multitude of things. So I won't go into every single one. Next weekend is our Santa Claus Parade. So this is an exciting time for the town of Renfrew. We did put out a sponsorship application this year, and it was really well received. All of the larger ticketed sponsorships have been taken and were taken very quickly. So we will note that for next year, because we don't have a budget for Santa Claus Parade, so we do rely on sponsorships solely to be able to run this. And there's lots of different costs associated with putting on the Santa Claus Parade, getting traffic control, Santa, facilities, renting armories, like all of it costs money, right? So yeah, that's next weekend. It's an evening parade, and we're looking forward to that coming to town. Okay, this is a more serious note now. So we have a vigil on December 6th. It is the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. So this is in partnership with the public library that is in Renfrew. And we have Bernadette McCann House coming on site. We've got candles. You can donate to receive a candle, and the funds will go back to Bernadette McCann House. So that's at Low Square, December 6th, 5 p.m. We are also doing another partnership event with the library, the Holiday Celebration and Solstice Walk. So we're just doing different traditions, holiday traditions that happen. So from the pictures here, you can see the pickle on the tree. I don't know if anyone's heard of that before. It's a German-American tradition. We're also doing some Mexican star ornaments, just different things that different cultures celebrate, as well as the Solstice Walk, which we'll do at Algonquin Trail. For Year's Eve, this was on the presentation last month as well, so just finalizing the details for that. So it happens Sunday, December 31st. It's a morning event. We've got a magician coming, super exciting, and a breakfast happening as well. And then in the evening, we have our New Year's Eve masquerade dinner and dance. We have Schmidt's Catering coming, as well as the Richmond Ramblers Band. Kelly, do you want to do the community outreach piece here?
Thank you. So just an update, the CS Murray Grant, which is the Community Support, Multiculturalism and Racism Initiatives, the RFP was awarded to Kate Monahan from the Quiet Guide Company and Becky Wright from Milestone Consulting, that they will be carrying out the project that we've already received a government grant for, and I will talk more about that both later on in the presentation, and there'll be a report going to Council next Tuesday with more details. Work continues on the Arts, Heritage and Culture Master Plan. I'm sure some of the staff have already had the consultants reach out for information, and that is ongoing. There will be, the focus group is happening in January. Working with, as part of the Santa Claus Parade, working with Renfrew County Voices, Renfrew and District Food Bank, Community Living, and the Snowsuit Fund, led by Jack and Shirley Collins. So that's all part of the Santa Claus Parade initiatives. We finalized the bylaw for the MOU with Youth Gymnastics A, and the gymnastics program has actually been running in partnership with them, and quite successfully, doing really well. And also there was a quarterly meeting for local groups and organizations. They had their first meeting. One of the initiatives we're trying to do is make sure that we're not duplicating events and programs that with other organizations in the community. So the first meeting happened, and it was a really good turnout. There will be another one happening in January, I believe. So it's just all these organizations, whoever wants to join, that anyone who holds programs or events within the town. It's just to help everybody kind of be on the same page, better partnerships, and less duplication of program. So this is the CS Murray project update. They will be providing, again, there'll be a more thorough report coming to Council Tuesday. They just, at each milestone of the event, of the project, they provide an update as to where they are. They already held their first focus groups on November 16th. 13 people attended the focus group that was held out at the Visitors Information Center, and they got a lot of great feedback. It was facilitated by Eric Lockhart, Facilitation Services. There is going to be, which we're just starting to market, they're going to do a second one. It's going to be a virtual focus group happening December the 2nd at 10:30. So if you keep an eye on the town website, social media, etc., there will be a registration that anyone from the community can participate in. So the more voices that lend themselves to this, the better that it's gonna be. The more we can hear from people. So far, that was what they're planning. They're on quite a schedule, and as I'll talk more on Tuesday's report, but the town of Renfrew received this funding back in 2021, and they had, I believe we were given 1 to 2 extensions, and when it was given over to Community Services at the end of last spring, we were able to talk to the ministry once again, and they're allowing us till March 31st of 2024. So these consultants have been great. They're on a very tight schedule, and there's a lot to get done in a very short period of time, but we're confident that they can do it, and they're on their way. So, Ms. Charbonneau is not here today, so I'm just going to give a little brief overview of some of the craft beer and food information. So we had what we could track. It was, next year we'll do it a little better and a little more, but it was very hard to track people. But we did, from what we were able to count, we did get over 1,500 people attending, and it was well attended considering the the weather that day. We had 8 brewers, 2 craft spirit vendors, and 7 food trucks. The feedback from the vendors and brewers was incredibly positive. Majority of them are already signed up to come back again next year. So it was overall a really good event. 6,000 beer tickets sold, and we had 5 local live music acts. From the people, so we kind of asked, the volunteers at the gates would sort of ask, where are you from? Where are you from? And so the people we could grab and ask, 69% were Renfrew residents, 15% from outside, and 3% were actually international, which was rather interesting. 18% of visitors were tourists, and I will say when I was volunteering at the gate, I had one couple from on the other side of Cornwall who said they came here just for the craft beer festival. So it was kind of interesting. We had a few other people like that, so it was just neat to see people coming in from different areas to attend. We can get more. Just let me see here. Just want to see if Manager Charbonneau had anything else she wanted to add. I think we covered it. As far as the financials, we have not had a chance to run those yet. We know we didn't, I'm pretty sure we can confidently say we didn't lose anything, but I will come with more specific stuff, hopefully in another month. It just haven't had a chance to get that together yet. Economic development, there's been a lot. Finalizing leases and naming rights agreements for the MyFM Centre, as well as finalizing leases at One Innovation, assisting with intergovernmental relations activities with the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus for affordable housing, wayfinding signage for the MyFM Centre, formulating the customer service strategy for Service Renfrew, continuing to move through surplus of town-owned lands, process for parcels deemed as generally marketable, and building relationships with new and potential business owners. So it's definitely a busy department.
Thank you so much, Director Thompson. Well presented, appreciate it. I'm going to open up the floor for questions or comments on this report. All right, hearing none, I just wanted to say a few things. Specialist Fraser, you said 31 events in the next 3 months. Amazing. Amazing. Like, seriously, I cannot express, I know it's a lot of work for you and your team, but like the community really appreciates these events that you're doing. A comment that was made that you said you wanted to do better next year on the beer festival. I don't think you need to do better because you did a really great job this year. Obviously, learn from little hiccups that you may have had, considering it was really cold and really wet. When I was there, it was absolutely amazing. And I'm just going to make one suggestion. You might want to write this down. Something that we've done in years past, do a guest book. That way you don't have to ask anybody where they're from. People love signing guest books and telling a story and where they're from. So yeah, so I just thought I'd mention that. Alrighty, so since that is complete, we're going to move on to presentations, delegations. C.5, presentation of the Renfrew Public Library monthly update, presented by Director Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. So generally this would be Deputy CEO Murdoch, but she is in training today, so you get to hear me again. October at the library was busy. Part of the, sorry, no problem. So we always like to just throw in some faces. It's nice to know who you might run into. Up to this month we have Stanley and Sue, who are 2 of our volunteers. We have very active volunteers at the library, and it's we welcome them. Derek is our student page, and Donna is one of our part-time workers. And then you see the rest of my awesome team, minus me, because I never get over there anymore. But they are doing wonderfully. I have this upside down. Okay, so program attendance. During the month of October, we had 223 children and 231 adults and teens attended programs at the library. So we had a great month, lots of different activities, and those are just some photos of some of the programs that we ran. So it was a busy month. Community activity days tend to be really well received. We have a great deal of different individuals from the community and organizations, including community living. We've partnered with the Connection Center, and every time it's different. Sometimes it's art, sometimes it's, I think they did bingo. There's all different activities, and it's going really, really well, and we appreciate the partnerships with the other organizations. The Ontario Public Library Week this year, we raised over $300 for the book and bake sale, which was great, and we want to thank the community and everyone who supported through that. And these are just some of the good news. Every year for Ontario Public Library Week, we ask people who come in for feedback. A couple of the things we heard was it gives me a quiet place, no distractions, I can read in peace, always makes me feel welcome. Staff, again, excellent service, always with a smile, and everyone is so friendly. So I have, they are a fantastic team, and I just want to say how great they do and how much they provide the community. So these are a few of the other programs that happened during the month. So October 25th, Mayor Sidney came and visited with the class, a JKSK class from Admaston Public School. Freaky Friday, which we were thrilled to be able to offer something along with the BIA. It was incredible, as per usual. My staff said overwhelming, but very positive. So we kind of were the throughway into the haunted house that the Connection Center had. So we actually had 900 people through, and 347 people actually got their pictures done at the photo booth, including some of our town staff. Outreach and partnerships, you can go ahead. So these are some of the ones that we had in the past month. Early on, we'll be actually doing some programming with the library in the coming month or two. Chartwell, the Renfrew Food Bank, No Frills, the Connection Center, Renfrew Pride, McLaren Orchards, and Renfrew Pizzeria, and Cora's Homemade Apple Pies all helped us with programs during the month. We also showed up, but it was cold and wet, and our books were getting really damp. So Janice stuck it out for a while, and then she had it back in, and we actually had a display in the library, and people went in to warm up and use facilities and stuff. So at least we were part of it. It was great to be able to partner somewhat with it. Our program guide has gone to print, so you will see the new program guide for the next 3 months coming out probably within the next week, online before that. So all of our program lineup is coming. November, there is still programs going on in November, including the League of Occasional Games Night. Oh my goodness. Our Love of Literature Book Club, and then Dine-November is still ongoing, which has been quite popular. We will be also at the Santa Claus Parade this year. I believe our float is going to be based on the book, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Sleigh. So we're trying to put something together for that. It's been lots of fun. One of the new things that we're offering is you can add your name to reserve lists so that you can reserve items that are new and coming soon that may not be in the library yet, but once they get there, then you're already on the list and ready to pick it up as soon as your turn comes up. Just a reminder, we do extension services. We do deliver materials, books to people who are homebound. So you just have to contact the library. There's a form to fill out. You can even do it online with one of the staff or through email, and we are happy to deliver materials. Okay, so just some stats, just so that people know. First of all, print books are not dying. I'm not sure I want to just... So in the last month, we had 2,985 print books borrowed. So there are lots and lots of people still reading. 805 ebooks were borrowed, 480 DVDs. We had 63 new library members. We're averaging between 50 and 60 new members a month, and that has continued most of the year. 136 people got tech help from staff. 588 people used the library's public computer station, so I think it's always important to point out that not everybody has a computer, not everybody has a cell phone, and we see that. 100 hours of coding was completed in Fierro Coding Club, 75 community activity day participants, 47 book draw participants, 6 class visits from local schools, and we had 12 volunteers and 89 volunteer hours just in the month of October. So the library is a busy place, and we always are happy to see more people join. Just a couple of quick things. The library has received a Trillium grant in the amount of $122,600 to replace the 3 entrances at the library, so we are thrilled. So that will start in January. RFPs will start going out in January, so it'll be the main steps, the sliding door, and between the fire hall and the library, that entrance will now also become accessible. Just some points. We did have a Ukrainian patron coming in seeking language and community assistance. They were directed to the local immigration partnership. We're partnering with Family and Children's Services for our 8th annual holiday gift program, Angel Tree. Our angels tend to go quick. We try as much as possible. Family and Children's Services gives us children actually from Renfrew, and the kind of different thing about ours is the kids have put on there what they want, their sizes, all that kind of stuff. So they're quite popular, and but there are definitely angels left for people to come in. And our program and study rooms continue to be in high demand. So we don't have a lot of space, but they're well used. I think that's it for me, for the library. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Thompson. Do we have any comments or questions from the floor? Yes, Revivo, you have the floor.
I'm impressed with the fullness of the programming, and then also the, just the variety of it. It's very encouraging. Thank you. And the number, I'm surprised the number of print books, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Revimo. I also want to echo Revimo's unbelievable, the programs you're offering, absolutely amazing. And I too, when I saw 2,985 books going out, I was like, wow. I do have to be a stickler on one thing. I do apologize for this question, but I am going to ask it. You said that your programs went to print. I was just wondering where they were printed. Were they printed locally or out of town?
Yes, Chair, they were printed locally.
Getting the big fist pump for that. Thank you very much. You knew that question was coming, but I had to ask it. All right, seeing there's no more questions or comments from the floor, we're going to move on to reports, community services. D.1.1, the art project to showcase EDI. Can I have a mover that the Community Service and Economic Development Committee recommend Renfrew Town Council direct the consults working on the community support, multiculturalism, and anti-racism project to include a community art mural project as part of their outcomes? Mover, Revimo. And now I will send it over to Director Thompson to give her recommended action on this.
Thank you, Chair. So trying to get a few, we have the consultants already looking at several projects. So just a little bit of background. The town has had several meetings with Renfrew Pride and PFLAG to explore ways that the town can help support the 2S LGBTQIA community. Several ideas were discussed, including a crosswalk or a series of flags on the sidewalks bordering Railway Avenue. In 2021, town staff researched the crosswalk, and the following information was shared at that time. So an approximate cost of $1,500 to $2,000 plus HST, but that was, I will stress, 2021 pricing. So going back out now, I'm sure it's going to be more. And then the cost to maintain on an annual basis was projected at that time to be $2,000. Again, that would be probably increased if we go back and look at that now. The staff directed at the time also had discussions with the town of Arnprior and the Pembroke Business Improvement Area, who had been through the process of the installation and maintenance of the Pride crosswalks, and indicated that it was imperative that proper road paint was used to ensure the longevity of the crosswalk, as it endures so much traffic. and environmental exposure. Additionally, both parties indicated that the crosswalk requires repainting on an annual basis, so that was their main takeaway. So the suggestion was at that point was to use thermoplastic road paint in order to somewhat increase the endurance, but that would almost double the price of the project at that time. So again, looking at it in today's cost, it would be a fairly significant increase. In May of 2022, the Sitting Council of the time passed a resolution directing town staff to work with Renfrew Pride and PFLAG, Renfrew County representatives, to design and complete a project to produce a series of flags on both sides of Railway Avenue sidewalks, starting at the Raglan Street Railway intersection and concluding at Plant Street Railway Avenue intersection. The staff did meet with representatives to discuss ideas and options at that time. Also during that time, town staff researched the sidewalk flag option, and the following information was shared. So approximate cost in 2022 for the a 5x15 flag was about $2,950. If the original project endorsed in 2022 were to go through, the approximate estimate for that entire project would be $15,000, and again, that's a 2022 number. So we all know what's happened to the market, so we would need to add a fair amount onto that estimate. And again, the recommendation was to use thermoplastic road paint, which would, again, almost double the price of the project. Meanwhile, in 2022, and actually I think it was 2021, I think I'm wrong, I think it was the money was received in 2021, the town received a grant in the amount of $55,591 with a contribution required from the town in the amount of $38,038 for a total of $93,629. This was to be spent on community support, multiculturalism, and anti-racism projects and initiatives. This project was given to the Community Services team in May of 2023, and all funds must be expended by March 31st, 2024. Consultants have now been engaged to ensure that the priorities indicated in the application are carried out, and that the result will include a staff training component, community engagement and programs, directives for the coming years, and aid the town in becoming a more inclusive and welcoming community. And I would just like to say welcoming for everyone. The town of Renfrew has been taking steps to ensure a safe, inclusive community for all, but there is still work to be done. So thus far, the town and/or the library have formed an age-friendly, barrier-free working group, reaching out to community groups, placed a rainbow bench at the Renfrew Public Library in support of the 2S LGBTQIA community, installed an orange bench in Low Square in recognition of the Indigenous children and their descendants who have been affected by the residential school system, and has added special programming to mark Truth and Reconciliation Day. The history and heritage of the community has been recognized through the installation of 2 large historical photographs of Renfrew's downtown core on this side of the library building. We have added a land acknowledgement to council and standing committee agendas. We've supported the return of the nativity scene at Town Hall and opened that up for any other organization who wishes to display. Declared intimate partner violence and violence against women an epidemic resulting from the inquest into the murders of Carol Culleton, Anastasia Kuzak, and Natalie Warmerdam, and following the resolution made by the County of Renfrew. We've renewed and increased the support to the Golden Age Activity Centre, who supports seniors in the community, and revamped the grants to organizations to make it easier for nonprofit groups to access funding. So as part of this project and the funding that we received, there is an opportunity that as part of the project outcomes, the consultants working on the project would develop an outline for a community art project to symbolize the town of Renfrew's support for various groups and demographics within the community. The project will consist of a number of panels, each dedicated to a particular subject or group, that will be mounted on the side of the town hall facing the fire hall. This may include, but is not limited to, one representing the 2S LGBTQIA community, veterans, etc. The history of the town, whatever the community comes forward and decides that they would like to see. Details, including financials, will be worked out and presented by the consultants as part of their final report coming out end of March 2024, resulting in the murals being completed during the spring and summer of 2024. The project itself would be built on community input as a result of not just focus group discussions, but outreach, surveys, and a lot of engagement with both artists and community members. Okay, I think that is...
I just do have one question before you. Did you read the alternates considered?
Oh, did not.
Thank you.
Sorry. Still learning all this stuff.
That's okay.
So the alternatives considered would be 1, to rescind the original resolution and have the consultants prepare an outline of a community art project, including forecasted costs as part of their project outcomes. 2, endorse the original resolution of flags on the sidewalk. 3, endorse the crosswalk option. Or 4, take no action.
Thank you, Director Thompson. CEO Tremblay, you'd like to add to this? Yes,
Mr. Chair. I just want to add that we're proposing this as a way to be inclusionary when it comes to inclusion, and a number of other reasons. 1, the mural will allow us to have some public consultation and see across Renfrew, across our heritage, new residents, existing residents, different groups, to see what the panels will look like to represent really the fabric of Renfrew. So it's really to see what the public has to say and then use it as a good first example of murals, because we've been asked to also look at murals. It would also be on the equivalent of the second floor of the building. So in terms of maintenance, people walking on things and ongoing maintenance cost, it would be at the top of the building. And so in terms of vandalism, we've had instances of some of the Pride bench being vandalized. There's been some graffiti at the library. So having it on the second floor would help deal with that issue. So both in terms of a kind of safety security standpoint, but also in terms of ongoing maintenance. So we feel this is probably the most cost-effective way of doing it. We would roll it into the grant that to be honest, when Director Thompson says that her department was tasked with this, it's because we were getting notified by the government that they gave us money to do this initiative, and we really hadn't progressed on that initiative. So we want to bring it to conclusion, and we feel that as part of our efforts to make sure that everybody feels welcome to Renfrew and everybody feels welcome to visit or to call Renfrew home, that there is opportunities to do that. We think that this mural could be a good way of doing that, would be inclusionary in terms of Renfrew, and is a good way to kind of get some community feedback, but also that through an art and a mural project will reduce kind of our ongoing maintenance costs, and also kind of stamp out graffiti or vandalizing, because we see that in other communities where people are breaking over a crosswalk or applying paint to it, there's been all kinds of incidences of that. So we just want to get some direction from council, and we feel this is a way to kind of channel of the initiatives. And again, just as we did with other directions recently where council directed us to start negotiations, by putting it through that project and that grant and those discussions, that will come back to you in March, and then at that time council can decide on whether or not to proceed with the project. So what we're just saying is we feel this is the best vehicle at this point in time based on those considerations.
Thank you, CEO Tremblay. Before I open the floor for questions or comments, I just want to make a comment. You mentioned that the Pride bench was vandalized. I do want to add that it wasn't just the Pride bench vandalized that evening. There was sidewalks, there were streets, there was paint all over the town of Renfrew. So I just wanted to clarify it, because you kind of just said the Pride bench was vandalized, when in essence there was a whole bunch of stuff vandalized that night, and I just wanted to clarify that. So I will now open.
Just to clarify.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, we had a second incident that was just our bench with some very explicit language spray painted on the bench.
Well, then my apologies. I was, as a councillor, I was not made aware of that instance, so I stand corrected that there was a second incident. All right. Now I will open up the floor to questions, comments. Councillor John McDonald, you have the floor.
Thank you, Director, for your comments earlier on, and Chair, through you. Although I came here to support the BIA, I'll start over. Mike wasn't on. Thank you, Director Thomas, for your comments earlier on, and Chair, through you. Although I came here to support the BIA today, I'm prepared a few words to address this motion. We've just spent over $1 million to modernize the Renfrew Town Hall and to have a professional look. We went with the professional look because it is the identity we want to project. This money wasn't spent to create a canvas for any group, cause, or belief system, no matter how deserving they may be. Taxpayers have communicated to me that they want a town hall that is professionally run. They don't want us to promote specific identities or interests. The priority of our council and staff should be a town hall that remains a neutral place for everyone. I can tell you right now, I celebrate freedom and inclusion for everyone. If people want to exercise their artistic creativity on their own property, they can, and businesses likewise. But public places should remain neutral. Regarding your number 2 option that's here today on flags on the sidewalk and the number 3 option of a flag at a crosswalk, again, I do not support these options as they would demonstrate that our town is not operating from a place of neutrality. Further, I believe the previous council had no specific mandate from the public to drastically change the look of this town with a motion for these types of actions, and neither does this current council. Because this current council has no mandate to remove the town from a place of neutrality, I am left with no option but fully support option 4, which is to take no action. So that's my comments, and thank you for your time, and I thought I'd jump in just because I was here for the BIA earlier on, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald, for your statements. Councillor Agree, you have the floor.
Through you, Chair Andrew Dick. I just also want to make a quick comment on this before we vote. So when I was running for council, I stated I was open to listening to Renfrew Pride, other organizations, and the community to gain knowledge and feedback. I was actively engaged in the Town of Renfrew's age-friendly, barrier-free working group. At this group, we received delegations from all groups and organizations. Sitting here a year later, I feel the town has and will continue to work with groups and organizations to make Renfrew a friendly and safe town for all to live and enjoy. The town and council has did a lot over the last year, as pointed out by Director Thompson. Because of my disability, I'm actively involved with DIA issues. So these issues are very personal to me, and I take keen interest. After full consideration on all sides of this request, I do not support options 1, 2, or 3, and will be in support of option 4 today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Agree. Revimo, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I was the architect of this indirectly and probably directly, because when we had the national scrutiny on us because a couple of mayors had some intemperate remarks about racism and not being inclusive. I worked to put together a report to council which talked about moving forward, and part of it was demonstrating that our communities were open and accepting of all. And through that was then approached by by Pride and talked, and I went with the sidewalk idea simply because it's easier to maintain, and then secondly because of some of the difficulties with crosswalks, with people spinning on them, braking on them, whatever. It seemed like it would be an ongoing maintenance issue, and then also just was worried about if there was anybody close to the crosswalk when somebody was monkeying around that they were going to get hit. And the idea then was that with the flags on both sides of the Railway Avenue, because we use the Railway Avenue as a sort of like a plaza when we have events, that it would make sense to do that. So again, I'll be honest with you, I'm most comfortable with proceeding with option 3, I believe it was. Where did that go? Oh, sorry, I lost it. The original crosswalk idea, because I do think that the building, this building itself should probably remain as clean as possible, because if you do one side, then we may end up doing sides, or 2 sides and then 3 sides. So I think it, I think it has to just have the town brand on it, to be quite honest with you. So that's, I'm still comfortable with the idea of going with the original crosswalk option.
Okay, thank you, Revimo. So, Clerk Eric, so we need to take a vote on how we're going to bring this up to council. And from my feel on the floor, there's only 2 votes, and I kind of know which way they're going to vote. So can you explain the direction I need to go?
I'll pass it over to the clerk. Just to note that so the chair must vote as well.
Okay.
Although Councillor McDonald does not have a vote,
That's
the 3
right.
members can vote, but I'll leave it. I think the town clerk has this one covered and will give you good procedural advice.
Okay. Thank you.
So before we move forward with anything else, the motion on the floor currently needs to be dealt with. So
Okay.
if you want to call for a vote, however you wish to call for it, we can deal with that. And then if the committee wishes to raise another motion, we can do so, and I can help guide that.
Okay, so obviously I'm going to be voting on this, and by the looks of it, I'll be the kind of the deciding factor.
Call your normal vote.
Just call my normal vote? Should I not give my reasons why?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
What the direction I should vote?
Yes,
I want to
you can,
vote in?
yes.
Okay, so I was kind of hoping I didn't have to do this, but obviously I do. So I think it's important to recognize that we need to live in a diverse and welcoming community. I can't remember who said it, but we need to be welcoming to all diverse individuals. I'm in 100% agreement that our town hall should not be, we should not put up any panels or anything like that. I think, Councillor McDonald said it perfect. We put all this taxpayer money into it to make it look professional. It's starting to really look good. So I'm not in favor of that at all. My issue with option 2 and option 3 is we are endorsing one diverse portion of the community, and we're not doing a whole. We're not welcoming it's not for everybody, it's for one small diverse group. So that's my issue with this. So I myself at this time will I will vote for number 4 and take no action at this time. So I will now call the vote. All in favor of the motion on the floor? All against? The vote is 2-1 for against. Motion is defeated. So therefore, now this will be brought to council. No, it's not going to be brought to council. Sorry, if we could help me out, as it's my first meeting and I just want to learn.
Yep, so
now-
since this failed, I think Carolyn's going to have a replacement motion based on what we heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, so that motion is off the floor. Based on kind of the discussion there, I have quickly drafted another motion just to kind of assist, so that the Community Services and Economic Development Committee recommend Renfrew Town Council take no further action regarding a crosswalk, sidewalk, or art project supporting community support, multiculturalism, and anti-racism. So if that is favorable, if there's a mover. Okay.
Councillor Green moves it.
Discussion.
Okay, now I'll open the floor to discussion on this matter. Hearing no discussion, all in favor? All against? Thank you. 2 for, 1 against.
So the
Motion is
carried.
passed. Motion is carried.
So
Okay.
just so the committee, that is what will go forward to council.
That's what will go forward to
That's
council.
correct. So this
Now-
report will carry to council with that recommendation attached.
All right, and council
Then has an opportunity to discuss, and vote accordingly or a motion accordingly.
Okay, perfect, thank you very much. So moving on to D2, Economic Development. D2-1, can I have a mover for the potential surplus of 67 Argyle Street South property? The recommended action is that the Community Service and Economic Development Committee direct staff to provide public notice of the potential surplus and future sale of 67 Argyle Street South. Councillor Green moves it. I will now move it over to CO Tremblay to discuss this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we know, we're We're approaching, hopefully, a substantial completion of the Mattaway expansion, and what that means is most programs, all programs, will be redirected to other facilities, notably Mattaway. We did do our due diligence with regard to the property in terms of a potential heritage designation, which council decided not to proceed with. We also have an appraisal that's been shared with council and closed in terms of our future bargaining. In terms of our surplus of property policy, we're required to provide public notice prior to declaring something surplus to our needs, and then proceeding to its sale or redevelopment in other ways once that occurs. So as part of that process, we come to committee only to confirm that committee would like us to go out to public notice. If that's endorsed by committee today, we do the public notice process. We gather any feedback that we get through that process and then come back to council with the actual surplus report that then rises to council for final decision. And as part of that surplus report, we will outline how we would market the property should the recommendation stay to declare it surplus. So whether we get a real estate firm, do a tender, like to the lowest bid, or an expression of interest to see what redevelopment might look like, which we've looked at in 2 other properties that have come to council this fall. So at this time, it's just concurrence from committee to proceed to public notice of the potential surplus of the rec center.
All right, hearing that report or that motion, is there any discussion or comments on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay, oh, I don't have this on, there we go. Okay, moving on. Can I have a mover for the recommended action that Community Services and Economic Development Committee recommend Renfrew Town Council, 1, approve the constitution of the downtown Renfrew Business Improvement Area with associated amendments to bylaw number 29-79, which designated a certain area as an improvement area and established a board of management. Therefore, number 2, approve the town assume responsibility for all landscaping and beautification in the downtown core effective 2024. 3, direct that an $80,000 BIA levy be included in the draft for the 2024 budget for consideration. 4, direct that the remaining $100,000 promissory note for the street furniture and lighting on Raglan Street South be forgiven and funded from the unallocated reserves. 5, direct staff to work with the BIA to establish the necessary policies and procedural bylaw and confirm appointments to the board for the remaining term of council. 6, direct staff to proceed with necessary notice to adjust the area boundaries to include properties designated as downtown commercial in the official plan. And 7, direct the CAO and Human Resources to place BIA staff on the non-union grid and complete a job description. What's that word?
Commiserate.
Thank you, commiserate, with the current rate of pay and ensuring compliance with legislative requirements. Can I have a mover for that long one? Councillor Agree moves it. CEO Tremblay, you probably can shorten that up for us.
All the actions are in the recommendations. I just first want to, through you, Mr. Chair, and thank Lisa, Mel, and Wanda for all their work on this. And I appeared before the BIA twice, and I basically said the status quo needs to change, and we know that it's been a bit of a struggle on the governance side. And as a clerk by training and understanding the requirements of a local board, just want to make sure that the business people that are on the board are protected and that we do all that is needed and in the Municipal Act and has been in the Municipal Act for a while. So it started there. But then we also knew about kind of the limited funds when we realized that they've received a $5,000 increase in budget once in its entire history, and the important work that they do. And if they don't do that work, I just want to be clear, then town staff are usually the ones that have to pick it up. So as part of this review is really to look at the BIA, and council did ask us to kind of fix the governance-related issues that needed to be fixed and look at potential expansion. What I did when I came back the second time to the BIA, because we did do a survey, a hard copy survey to tenants and owners in the BIA. Unfortunately, that list hadn't been maintained, so we'll have one to work from going forward, because that's important when they give notice of AGM, not just their email distribution list. We got very limited response, so I think we got 13 responses, which is low engagement. And there's been some changes in the board over the years. So what I did say to the BIA is we're not necessarily going to garner a lot out of the survey. For those of you that are engaged in the BIA, what are you looking to see? And I think I'd like to thank them for their proposal, because I think it really outlines where we're at, and for the most part, staff are endorsing a lot of what they've said. So what I just want to say is, just reiterate, we're generally support with what they're saying. The one thing we're recommending is, while the goal could be 95,000, we're recommending a mid-step of 80, and that would be a draft that would go into the budget for council to consider, along with all the other things you're going to need to consider as part of the 2024 budget, but then also provides direction to the BIA to revise their budget proposal based on that amount. Should council want to come in at 95,000, that would be fine. We would need that direction to give to the BIA, but also to staff. In terms of their mandate, the Municipal Act specifies kind of two rules for BIAs. One is the business promotion kind of shopping district, which is what you heard, I think, in the proposal, where they really want to focus their attention. They want to focus on getting people down to downtown and having great success at events. We want to focus on that. What that means is the second piece, which was always kind of shared, and I think that's where the $100,000 promissory note comes into play, on kind of maintaining the physical infrastructure in the downtown. The unfortunate part is they can't do that with a $65,000 budget. And I said to them when I went and said the town needs to do a better job of maintaining the flower beds, and mea culpa on that, and we need to do a better job, and we'll look at that as part of the 2024 budget. But does it make sense for them to have the promissory note or to be paying for the lighting of the specialized lights? When is that an expense beyond that they should have to deal with? And my recommendation is that we would deal with the $100,000 promissory note, and we would deal with all the landscaping related issues, including and ensuring as part of the tender process and working with the third party that provides the flowers that we're very clear on the standards and we're getting good value for the money that we're spending. And that would mean that we also assume the baskets, and that if there's broken benches or light posts or garbage bins, that is still probably our responsibility, and we shouldn't be waiting on those. We should be doing those in a timely fashion. So I just want to point out that's not the BIA's problem, that is ours, and one that we know that we're committed to fixing. In terms of policies and procedures, basically as a local board, all the kind of fun stuff that applies to council and standing committees apply to the local board, unfortunately. It's not the case for the Police Services Board or the Library Act that have been exempt from those sections of the Act. But the BIA is under the purview of the Ombudsman, the Integrity Commissioner, and the Closed Meeting Investigator. So that means a procedural bylaw is required and must be followed. There is a motion on the books for us to look at transparency across other entities, and so we would look at it as part of that, but I'm confident that Carolyn as town clerk can provide some of that strategic advice, and I can assist as well. And then there's 3 mandated policies that are important: hiring, disposition of land, and procurement. So we would make sure that they would have those policies, and instead of just adopting the towns, we would provide them with simpler, easier to follow policies to meet the requirements of the Act. In terms of expansion, right now there's about 101 properties. Going to the official plan designation of downtown commercial makes a lot of sense. And what we recommend is we would go through that process. We're required to give notice, and those folks would have a 60-day appeal period, and there's a 1/3 margin where if 1/3 disagree, then those properties can't be added. But we would look at it as a rejig of the district. What that will do is also lessen the impact on everybody else. And then back to finance, just to let you know, as I mentioned before, basically people are charged a levy, so the $65,000 is recuperated by all the properties in the district unless they're exempt. And the maximum charge, and it's based on assessed value, so why Rexall and the old Sears building and Metro hit the ceiling and only pay $3,000, it's because those buildings, those properties have a greater value. And then, so basically, based on the assessed value, we recuperate the $65,000 from the properties within the district. So when you increase the budget, what you're doing is you're increasing the levy that each of these properties is going to pay. But if we're looking at expansion would kind of put the budget broadly across all additional properties. And we've done a comparison of the rolls, and it would be, I think, an additional about 70 properties or so. So it would have a big impact on what might happen is some of the current businesses might see a decrease because more properties would be paying. And again, currently it's only $3,000, and that's that maximum. So as part of the budget process, we would come back to you with a review, and as part of our tax rates about should we apply a maximum so no businesses are badly affected, but we think that 80,000 as a midpoint probably makes some sense, and that just for the purposes of discussing at council, and then council would still, as it's weighing all the options, still has the legislative authority to alter the overall budget for the BIA. And just in terms of the board itself, the original bylaw did have a 5+2, I believe it was. So what is being recommended by the BIA is actually what was in the BIA bylaw, but that we haven't followed for many years. So the current bylaw in the books does specify 2 council members. So we're recommending that as part of this process, we would confirm the second member. And then for the 5, it actually has to come, there has to be an AGM of the BIA with proper notice. They must provide a list of 5. Council has the authority to appoint all or none of them. So we'll recommend maybe a list of 7, 1 to 5 with alternates maybe. But the goal is we would do that on an annual, they would have appointments on an annual basis. Per the Municipal Act, they should be appointed for the term of council. So you won't have that turnover depending on what's going on in the district. They're appointed for 4 years. They have a job to do for 4 years, and their appointment is endorsed by council. So I just want to thank the BIA. I know it's a scary, people get to know my approach, which is to be brutally honest and say, and I said to them, what do you do really well? And we'll figure out the governance part, but what do you really want to focus on, and what do you think the district can do and support? And I think the proposal is very sound, and I think we can do look at the levy, but then also look at the district boundaries, but within what we're required to do in the legislation. So if there are any questions, either Aaron or I can respond, or Kelly.
Okay, I am going to open the floor for questions. I just wanted to let Councillor Legree and Reeve Emo, you're going to stop me if I'm wrong on this, but there's 7 things, 7 motions. Is this 7 motions, or 1 motion with 7 topics?
It's currently proposed as 1 motion.
However, if you feel there's something in there that you don't want, we can pull out and you can vote different on that. I just wanted to make you 2 aware. I'm sure Reeve Emo already knew that, but
or amend any of them.
Or amend any of them. We can do that. I just wanted to let you know that. All right. And in saying that, Councillor McDonald, you have the floor.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. That was a great overview, CAO, and I appreciate it. The question is with regard to the 3 that are maxed out right now. Is that a bylaw that we would control, saying we want to up it in terms of town of Renfrew? We want to up it to, throw out a number, 4,000, 5,000. Is that in our wheelhouse? Go ahead.
Interestingly enough, there was a 7, I just want to go back to the bylaw because I'm a nerd, but the bylaw, the original bylaw said their maximum budget could be 7% of the assessed value, and the assessed value is like 29 million. So they'd be entitled to a budget of over $1 million or something along those lines. Aaron and I looked at it. The maximum minimum is in the Municipal Act, so it's not in the original bylaw. So the Municipal Act allows you, when applying the levy, to institute a minimum and a maximum. We don't have a minimum right now, so there's one property that pays was it $163? she's like Rain Woman and I'm Rain Man. I think it's either 163 or 168. So we can, right now, there's no minimum. We could apply a minimum. So for instance, every property will pay a minimum of $500. And we could look at the maximum as well. What we would do is, as part of the budget process and the levy process, we'll look at all the properties and see what that would look like, and would make a recommendation on maximum and minimum. What we showed in the report is if you eliminated the maximum, what the maximum charge would be for one of those 3 properties. But right now, only 3 of them hit the 3,000. And not by lots. Everybody else was well within it. But we would look at a minimum and a maximum.
Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Tremblay. Is that okay, Councillor McDonald? Reeve Emo, Councillor O'Doherty, do you have anything to add to this conversation? Yes, Reeve Emo, you have the floor.
Thank you. Very quickly, through you, I'm just curious about the cap. You know, I've no doubt that the businesses that are assessed at 76 would move to 7,600. It may not be a hardship, but it's certainly a shock for them. And I'm wondering, similar to Councillor McDonald, is there a means of graduating that cap up to get to 7,600 in 5 years or 4 years or something like that? Because is there any other bands within the boundaries, businesses that would also have a significant increase? Because I think it says something like a 27% increase to each property. So is there going to be significant shocks for people, is what I'm asking.
CEO Tremblay?
Yeah, there would be everybody would see an increase because it's proportional. So it's based on, an assessment hasn't changed unless there was a major like renovation or addition to a building. Like we're still on old assessment because they haven't done the reassessments. So that's pretty static. You could look at like increasing it from 3,000 because we are looking at boundary expansion, which would spread it wider. So you could look for those 3 properties or overall at a maximum of 5,000. What we would do is when we would come back at the budget, we would do the detail analysis for all the properties to see kind of who's seen the impacts, and then recommend a new minor and a maximum or minimum. Right now you don't have a minimum. So it might be good to continue to provide a maximum, knowing that the boundaries are likely to change for 2025, and to not adversely impact those 3 properties or all properties, so that there might be some properties then that would, like there'd be way more people hitting 3,000. So what you're doing is those that don't have that levy would be paying proportionally more because more properties are hitting the maximum. So what we're saying to you is the maximum of 3,000 is not viable if you're going to increase the budget to 80,000. Because what's going to happen is the smaller guys and gals are going to be paying for the bigger people that are already at 3,000. So the Rexalls of the world aren't going to be paying more. Everybody else will. So we would do that detailed analysis and bring it back as part of the budget process.
Thank you, CEO Tremblay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. I'm just going to, oh, sorry, yeah, you go ahead.
I'm a little confused with the budgets that have been put before us, because it talks about, 65,000, and we've talked about taking away the beautification, which is 26,428. Oh, this is the 23 budget, I'm sorry. Okay, my apologies.
It's the one just before that one.
Yeah,
Appendix B would be the one they proposed.
Appendix B. And I've lost it, but anyway, okay.
Would you like a minute to look for it, and I can just make, I can make my comments.
Thanks, you go right ahead.
All right, so while Reeve Emo's just looking for those numbers, I just wanted to add that I think this is a really good initiative, a great partnership between the BIA and the town of Renfrew. I personally like the fact that the town is going to be taking over the garbage and the flowers and the weeding and the stuff like that, because ultimately, just out of my brain and my thoughts, that should be the town's job to do that, to make our main street look beautiful, so the BIA can focus on, driving business downtown, doing events for families and generating revenue and all that stuff. So I like that idea. And then it's in our control as councillors and staff. We control If something's wrong, we get it fixed right away. So I'm excited for these changes, and hopefully it'll pass at council, but we will wait and see. And Revimo, did we find our numbers?
I did, thank you.
All right.
In the budget, it's 95,000 is the grand total, but the BIA assistant is 40,000. So in taking that away, it brings it down to my math, 55, and we're suggesting 80. So can I get a sense of why we're doing that?
CEO Tremblay, you have the floor.
So basically, what the BIA is proposing based on their strengths, which is what I asked them to do, is they're getting completely out of the beautification game, but spending more time in recognition of kind of their obligations. So when we talk about a hiring policy, there's some employer obligations that we must assist them with. And I would say the one thing I wanted to note from the surveys that we did receive, there was really great positive feedback on the staff work, supporting the work of the Board of Management and the outreach that has occurred. So there are some obligations from an administration and operations perspective that the BIA must meet. And then they're also putting more money into promotions and advertising and events. So with them focusing on kind of their business promotion mandate, and as a shopping district, they want to spend more money there, and they need to do what they need to do corporately in terms of the management of their staff and the operations of the BIA. So what we're recommending is that they take a look to see how 80,000 would look from 65, because technically the mandate we've removed the requirement to pay us back for that promissory note. We're going to be taking on the baskets. We're going to be taking on some expenses that they used to do. And on top of it, they're going to focus more on promotion and events. And there's some stuff they have to do as employers. So we feel that within the 80,000, they could go back and look. And also, I did have a conversation with Wanda in terms of some of the revenue. So some of the grants they may receive, some of the BIA bucks, that kind of stuff, sponsorships. So when they present if council supports asking for an $80,000 budget, they'd come back with a revised budget that would also, because you're only seeing expenses, you're not seeing revenues. So you see cash on hand, how much money they have in reserve, how much money they bring in from sponsorships and other sources of revenue to show a balanced budget. So that's why we recognize that they haven't moved, and they need to, and COLA is probably necessary, but we're supportive of an increased budget and a focused mandate. Just 95 at this point is probably a big jump for those that have to pay the levy.
Thank you, CEO Tremblay. Councillor McDonald, you have the floor.
Thank you. And to the CEO's point, I think there was in terms of moving forward, I'll get back to you in a second. I have to reframe the question. We're good.
Well, I have nothing else to say. So are we good to take? Okay, thank you, Councillor McDonald. All right.
We're good to go, and I'll talk to you later about it.
Perfect. Okay, after having a healthy discussion on this matter and hearing no more questions or concerns, all in favor? All opposed? Carried 3-0. Okay, moving on to communications and petitions, E-1, the Downtown Business Improvement Area Meeting Minutes, October 23rd, 2023. This is just for your review. Do I ask if they have questions or concerns? Does anybody have any questions or concerns on the minutes adopted? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. I am looking, can I have a mover for the recommended action that the Community Service and Economic Development Committee confirm the minutes of the 8-2023 Fire, Recreation and Community Service Committee meeting dated October 19th, 2023. Councillor agrees the mover. We are opening the floor for discussion or questions on these minutes. Seeing none, all in favor? Carried 3-0. Moving on to G, upcoming minutes of committees. The next regular scheduled meeting of the Community Service and Economic Development Committee is scheduled for December 12th, 2023 at 1 p.m. This is, please note the date, time, and change. And that is everything for today. Thank you to everybody who attended, and thank you to our delegation, and thank you to our YouTube visitors. This meeting is now adjourned.
At 3:55.
at 3:55 PM.